if they want to be Argentinian, they can be Argentinian.
Owned by Argentina?
It wasn't really a war, it was just a little conflict.
Las Malvinas.
Where have you got a passport from?
Argentina.
There's no point in our talking because I know whose side you're on.
Se está por cumplir otro aniversario de la guerra de Malvinas y salí a las calles de Londres a preguntarle a los ingleses qué saben y qué opinan. Siempre digo que para este tipo de videos es muy importante entender que tenemos buena, mala suerte, pero suerte al fin con la gente que nos toca. Lo que nos digan estas personas no va a ser una representación de la sociedad en total. Y todo hay que tomarlo con pinzas. Por cierto, este es el tercer video que hago sobre el tema, ya tengo 2 más al respecto, así que si querés ir a verlos, estás invitado. De lo que más sorprendía a la gente en los videos anteriores era la poca cantidad de gente que sabía sobre el tema y el desinterés, ¿no?, sobre a quién le pertenecen, o la cantidad de gente que estaba de acuerdo que tal vez tendrían que ser devueltas a Argentina. Así que vamos a ver si en este video nos encontramos con gente que piensa parecido. What do you know about the Falklands?
I know that they're claimed by Argentina. I know about the Falklands War. I know about Margaret Thatcher, General Galtieri.
So you know quite a lot.
A fair amount.
What,
Las Malvinas.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay.
How much do you think people know and care about the Falklands in the UK nowadays?
Nowadays, not so much, but I think the older generation, particularly, there was a kind of right-wing bunch of guys for whom it was very important, a patriotic symbol.
So the Argentinians, of course, won them back, claimed them back. What do you think about that?
I believe in more or less the right of people to self-determine, you know, so if the people want one thing, they can have it. If they want to be Argentinian, they can be Argentinian, but, you know, it's not for me to say, fundamentally.
So for the people in the island, on the island.
It's for the people of the islands to make a choice, yeah.
What do you know about the Falkland Islands?
Well, there's war there, wasn't there?
Yeah, between...
Argentina and Great Britain.
Yeah, you know how long ago?
It's the 70s, 80s? Was it the 80s?
Yeah. And do you know who won the war?
We did. They want to give it back to Argentina, don't they?
What do you think about that?
Their country. Yeah, give it back to them.
How much do you think people know and care about the Falklands in the UK?
It was a good 40 odd years ago, wasn't it? Most probably not a lot now. Okay. There's other stuff going on in there, like war in Ukraine and Russia and all that, so people's minds get distracted, don't they? Yeah. And forget about history, apart from the people that are into history.
So how much do you know about the Falklands?
Very little.
Yeah, what do you know about them?
I know that, well, I think they're islands that owned by Argentina. Near Argentina. There was a big old thing with the British and the only of them and then the Argentinians.
And how much do you think people know about them?
Here, very little. I think it's one of those things where anything that's happened, like British colonial past that was bad, is not taught really that much here.
Oh, really? Why, because of shame, you reckon? Or?
Probably. I mean, it's one of those things I think that is definitely not covered. I think it's the same with a lot of things. Like, you know, you look at like the Troubles in Ireland, for example. Like, you don't really taught about that at school here.
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 23.
Okay, so do you learn about them at school?
No.
No, nothing.
No, not at all.
So, what do you know about the Falklands?
I know that it's a small island near Argentina, I believe. I think there's a small population there, maybe like 3,000, 4,000, which I think primarily identify as being British. I know there's been tensions over the years in terms of whose water it sits in and where does the jurisdiction sit. I think my general understanding has been that it's not something the British are going to use as a negotiating bargaining tool at any point. As I said, I think the population there, I think there was a survey or a consensus, and I'm trying to remember, I think like 96, 97% of the returns identify as being British.
Yeah, you know about the war then, yeah?
I don't know much about it, but I know there was a war that related to it. I'm guessing in the 80s, a long time ago.
That's the questions.
Yeah.
How much do you think people know in the UK and care about the Falklands?
I think there's probably something entrenched in the British that the Falklands is part of the UK. So people may not know a lot about it, but I think if you said Falklands, people would say, oh yeah, that's kind of British territory or something.
Do you think people here would care if they were given back to Argentina?
Yes. Yeah, I think it would become a hot topic. Not to saying it's right or wrong, and I don't know enough about the history to determine, really have a view on it, but I think it wouldn't be something that British people would just be like, yeah, whatever. I think they would have a view on it, and I think they see it aligning with the UK more.
Intento sobre todo hablar con gente inglesa porque supongo que es la que más va a saber del tema y la que más a ustedes les interesa la opinión, pero también con algún extranjero que vive acá o que está de vacaciones, porque es interesante ver cómo de otras partes del mundo saben o no saben también sobre el tema. What do you know about the Falklands?
I don't know much about this, man. Yeah.
Do you know what they are or where they are?
No.
I don't know.
Where are you from?
I'm from Albania.
You've never heard of them, yeah?
Nah.
So what do you know about the Falklands?
Nothing.
Do you know what they are?
South America, the bottom of South America, islands, the war, that's what I know.
The war between...
Who knows?
So the UK, I guess, yeah?
The UK was involved, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and do you know who won the war, who they belong to?
No.
No?
No.
Do you think that's common within your circle, that people don't know about them?
Probably quite common that we don't know as much as we should.
What do you know about the Falklands?
Well, I don't know very much because I'm Australian, but I think they are islands off the coast of Argentina that are British owned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know about the war?
Yes, I've heard about the
Do you
war.
know how long ago that was, roughly?
Would it have been in sort of the late 90s, maybe?
How much do you think people know about them in the UK?
I'm 55. I think probably people my age would know quite a bit about it because it happened during our lifetime.
Yeah.
But I think probably the younger generation aren't aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think people think about them belonging to the UK?
They were probably part of, when the UK owned a lot of parts of the world and invaded, and my understanding is they're perhaps like navally important. I don't know whether they should belong to the UK or not. I really don't have much of an opinion on it.
What do you think about them being given back to Argentina? Because it's a topic every now and then.
Yes. As I said, I think they have sort of the strategic naval importance. I don't know what other minerals are on there. I don't know why the UK took them and how important they are to the Argentinian people, what sort of significance they have to Argentina. So I'd have to know more about it, I suppose.
Do you remember the war between the UK and Argentina?
Yes.
What do you remember about it?
I remember Queen's son was driving a plane in it.
Okay.
I remember when boats like the Sheffield and others were hit.
Yeah.
People being a little unsure whether or not they ought to nuke Argentina, but of course only mad people thought like that.
Yeah. Do you think they should belong to the UK?
The word belong is extremely obscure, isn't it? I don't think that they do belong to the, not in the sense that the American president thinks that Canada will soon belong to the United States.
Okay, so you think they should be under British control?
But they're not under British control.
They are not now?
No.
Yes, they are.
Tell me what Britain controls.
So people that are British, they have British passports. They use
they're
pounds.
controlled by them.
Okay.
Where have you got a passport from?
Argentina and Italy.
Oh, well, there's no point in our talking because I know whose side you're on. If somebody gives me the Falkland Islands for Christmas because they belong to us, belong means nothing. If they were invaded by Argentina, would we go to fight for them? I'm not sure now.
So this is about the Falklands, and how much do you know about them?
Nothing, absolutely.
Nothing?
Nothing
No?
at all.
Where are you from?
France and Germany.
Oh, okay. How long have you been living in the UK?
4 years.
4 years, and you never heard about the Falklands?
Nope.
And you don't know what they are?
Nope.
Pequeño espacio para dar una nota personal sobre el tema. Siempre yo apelo por la paz, ¿no? Porque dos personas de un pueblo, argentinos, ingleses, no estemos peleados por una guerra que lamentablemente decidieron los que están en el poder. Siempre lo digo, no al odio entre personas de un país por el hecho de haber nacido en un país y por el hecho de que culpa de políticos, militares, haya muerto gente. Así que dicho esto claro, seguimos con el video. This is about the Falkland Islands. What do you know about them?
Not a lot. I know we had a dispute over them, and we've still got the dispute going on with Argentina.
Do you know about the war, I guess?
Yeah, I remember the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you remember about it?
I'd actually just come out of the army before that, so it wasn't really a war, it was just a little conflict.
How much do you think people know and care about the Falklands in the UK?
Nowadays, hardly anything and hardly at all.
Yeah. Do you think it would be a big deal if they were given back to Argentina? What would people think about it?
I don't have any thoughts on that. I don't get involved in the politics of all that sort of stuff. That's between the two governments, and that's how it should be.
What do you know about the Falklands?
Argentina claiming them, which I suppose geographically is possible, but historically they are part of the British Empire.
Do you remember the war?
Yes, I do. Of course I do. It came very much politics. It helped Margaret Thatcher a lot, as she was very firm.
Yeah. How much do you think people know and care about the Falklands in the UK nowadays?
Possibly, if they weren't living in that time, it's not a particularly important part of history.
And what do you think about the possibility of them being given back to Argentina?
Probably very unlikely. We left it to the Falklands to vote on what they wanted, and they voted almost unanimously to stay with Britain.
So they should remain British.
They'll probably have another vote, and I'm pretty sure they'll probably vote the same.
Y ahí lo tienen, distintas personas, distintas edades, distintas zonas. Eso es lo que saben y lo que opinan los ingleses de las Islas Malvinas. Te invito a ver los otros videos y a suscribirte a este canal si te gusta el contenido. Gracias y hasta la próxima.